Welcome, everybody. This is Trisha Tamkin
And Jason Tebow.
from More Essentials. And thank you guys for paying attention to our public service announcement yesterday. We have had quite a bit of activity because of some changes that LinkedIn is making and really cracking down on extensions that you might use once you're inside the LinkedIn platform.
Yesterday we talked a little bit about different extensions you might use that could land you in LinkedIn jail, where they are going to shut off your profile, make you prove you are who you claim to be, in order to let you back out of LinkedIn jail. But what we didn't really address also was this idea of some of your ATS programs that you're using. These are causing difficulties as well because they're designed to do the very things that some of those Chrome extensions are doing.
Well, I think it's interesting, Jason, because it's not necessarily that they're causing problems yet. We've had many of our students come to us and say, oh my goodness, I use a parsing extension or a capture extension on one of my ATS systems. So what do I do? Can I still use this, or am I going to get shut down? And our recommendation to our students was, go ask your provider, right? We can't really tell you what the ATS system ultimately is going to decide or do. So a few of our students did just that, and we'd like to share those results with you. The first is from PC Recruiter, and they absolutely have a capture tool. So this email came from a principal owner of Main Sequence who puts out PC Recruiter.
All right, now what they're saying here, if you're not trying to read this screen in its entirety very quickly, because really who does that, is that capture tools are, technically legal, and there's no real laws prohibiting them. Now they do talk about the fact that there's laws that say you are prohibited from using their data for certain things, like, spamming people. It certainly is going to go on to say that, ultimately, we think the laws will work themselves out.
Which, wow. Now, it does say here, please consult your legal advisor on any questions that you have. And I think probably one of the most poignant sentences in this entire email is, it's up to each individual end user to decide how they wish to respond to LinkedIn's terms of service. I think that this is pretty much saying to you, you do what you want to do. We aren't doing anything wrong. If it gets you shut down at LinkedIn, sorry, not our fault.
That's on you. Now, they do also say in here that they have received several reports of warnings as of June, so this month of this year, but aren't aware of any customer accounts being shut down because of scraping activity, which I find to be an interesting response because they are absolutely then admitting that they're scraping, not simply, gathering data by, individual parsing.
Right. Now, in addition to PC Recruiter, there's also Invenius. Invenius responded to one of our students, and they said, hey, you know what? Everybody's problems yesterday were because of an outage, not because of scraping. Now, this could in fact be true. Perhaps there was an outage, and all of the warnings that LinkedIn has been giving over months and months that they're going to start locking people down
was mere coincidence.
Perhaps it was coincidence. And legitimately, it could have been coincidence. But I do want you to note that a second ATS system here is also saying that while we don't specifically target LinkedIn, our tools do work there, and LinkedIn clearly prohibits this activity.
So if you choose to do so, you do so at your sole discretion. So once again, they're saying if you are using our tool and LinkedIn shuts you down, well, that's your own fault.
So this really begs the question, should you continue to use these tools? I don't know. I think that Jason and I might side with the ATS systems and say, wow, at your own discretion, because you are clearly violating terms and service. One of the things to consider, and this is something of we'll call it an ethical quandary. If terms of service say you're not allowed to scrape data, terms of service say you're not allowed to circumvent search limits, which means I think, searching LinkedIn from Google.
Well, and let's be fair, the LinkedIn terms of service also say you can't send a connection request to somebody you aren't already connected to. Not, connected to through LinkedIn, because that wouldn't work. But somebody that you know you and would, instantly recognize you. Basically written about like that the person on the other end. And I imagine there's an awful lot of you watching this video right now who have sent connection requests to people you don't know.
I certainly am guilty of that. So violating terms and service. Now, one thing to consider when you're trying to make decisions about what to do. As recruiters, Jason and I certainly have very strong opinions about LinkedIn. I think it's, a job board, and people are tired of being contacted on LinkedIn. It's kind of low-hanging fruit. That being said, it is an absolute standard in our industry. One of the questions I'd like you to ask yourself is, my LinkedIn profile, how does it serve me? Am I getting the majority of my candidates and my clients because they're finding my LinkedIn profile and reaching out to me? Or am I finding the majority of my clients and candidates because I'm finding them and reaching out to them? I suspect that all of you probably fall into the same category as Jason and I, and it's the latter. We use LinkedIn in order to get to other people. Would it be a horrible situation if you lost your LinkedIn profile? Yeah, it probably would be. But would you still be able to see everybody else and effectively do your job? Yeah, you would. So this is a question that you guys all need to address yourselves and decide how you want to move forward.
And let's be clear, we can consider this us reaching out to you. So, we've reached out to you now. If you'd like to join with us on LinkedIn, that's completely okay.
I will take the extra connections for as long as it lasts, right?
Sure.
One thing that's important to know, we do these, service announcements first and foremost for our students. And all of our past students and alumni, please understand what we have taught you in eSourcing Essentials. All of it still works. It's not at risk. There are no issues there. And if you have any specific extension that you would like us to look at for you to give you our opinion on, go ahead and post it in the private Essentials forum that is only for alumni. We are happy to answer any of your questions there.
Well, and we have a little bit of an advantage. We have certainly had a bunch of you already ask some of those questions. So we spent some time and to try to decide which ones to continue using. So I'm going to start with some of the most generic results that I can tell you. If the Chrome extension or any other browser that happens to allow extensions that you're using has an extension that says LinkedIn in the name of it, I would be very wary of that extension.
Especially if it wasn't put out by LinkedIn, right? If it has LinkedIn in the name, not made by LinkedIn, be very careful.
Anything that is a data scraper or parses data is also something that could very well land you in LinkedIn jail. So, a lot of those are just going to say scraper in them somewhere. And, this being the internet age, it might call itself Scrapper or, any other version of that. We found that there's a huge tendency on the internet to leave off the E before an R. But all of these things that are out there that are data scrapers probably will land you in LinkedIn jail.
Now, there are also tools that are going to run on top of the LinkedIn platform. Contact Out is one of them. It is basically going to determine what somebody's contact information is off of their LinkedIn profile. Now that is sitting on top of the LinkedIn platform and running searches based on data inside of the LinkedIn profile. My initial thought is you could be at risk using that. What do you think?
Well, there is a clause in section 8.2, if you decide to read through the terms and conditions, that says you can't access their services through any method other than through the LinkedIn interface. And so that would be a method of accessing their search services in a different way. So that could certainly be a problem, but it all comes down to how it's doing it, how it's being tracked, ultimately, yes, you are in violation of, specifically what it says. But if it's just cleaning it up and doing it from within and you have to be signed in, I imagine LinkedIn's not going to crack down. Now, there's actually a little bit of an advantage here. There's some that we've taught in the past. For example, Lipple, LinkedIn People, that extension. That one is one that has been out for a while and stopped working really early last year. Others have already fallen to the same fate. So there's a bunch of LinkedIn extensions when I went through doing research on more that already you can't go to the extension store and get anymore. They've been shut off.
And I think they've been shut off by LinkedIn, right? I mean, I think my understanding is that LinkedIn is going to these organizations and filing lawsuits, sending cease and desist letters. And, I mean, not that the letter does anything, but it certainly is something that I would be extremely hesitant of, certainly giving the robust Microsoft legal department.
Well, and I would go so far as to say that many of you are fairly technically adept, and making a new Chrome extension is really not that difficult, and there's tutorials and all this online. Like, you could go and build one, and that's what a lot of people did. And then they put it on the Chrome store, but when you get that letter from LinkedIn saying cease and desist, and you are a small shop and you're not, a mega power yourself, you probably cease and desist.
I would agree. So in our non-legal, non-LinkedIn affiliated, extremely humble opinion, there are some of these that we don't think you should probably use.
No, I'm not going to read them off to you here, but you see that some of them are meant to directly override things that happen at LinkedIn, like unblock for LinkedIn, whose intention I believe is to unblock people. There's some like autopilot and auto connect that are automatically sending out things for you to connect to people, some of which are actually even just going through and automatically viewing profiles on your behalf, so that what they're doing is absolutely bypassing the way LinkedIn is meant to be used. And then there's a bunch on here that are scrapers that say scraper right in the title, and some that you'll find on here that just simply parse. They're grabbing the information for you, which again, LinkedIn has said don't do.
Now there's still a couple that we think do work and you can use that have, LinkedIn, some of them actually in the name, but they're not doing anything, again, in our humble, non-legally qualified opinion. I don't think that you're violating terms and services with this.
Right, and that's why we definitely say probably, because there could be somebody at LinkedIn who really doesn't like Discoverly and is going to do something about that. But for what these actually do function-wise, you're probably fine.
We walked you through this in yesterday's public service announcement, but one more time, here is how to basically turn off or disable or delete extensions in your Chrome browser in case you're not aware of how to do that. We'll walk you through it and show it to you live.
All right, now let's begin with the idea that you need to be doing this before you're already in LinkedIn. So do it now. Don't go into LinkedIn and decide which ones are causing a problem for you. Don't start using them and then realize the difficulty. But you'll open Chrome and you'll notice the 3 dots in the upper right corner. When you click on that, one of your options that will drop down is Settings. When you click into Settings on the left side of your screen, you will see Extensions. So you're going to click on that and open up all of your extensions. They'll drop down almost always in alphabetical order, which is convenient. And you're going to go through and there's a little thing that you can click to disable all of the ones that you need to disable.
Right. Now, to be safe, I disable anything that does anything at LinkedIn. Now, some of the extensions work at LinkedIn and other sites, and by all means keep those and use them at other sites, but you do not want to use those at LinkedIn right now. If it is a LinkedIn specific Chrome extension, I'd actually recommend you just go ahead and delete it. I don't think you should be using any of them right now. It is just too big of a risk that you're going to lose your LinkedIn profile. So why don't we jump out live and we'll just walk very quickly through that process for you so that you can see what you need to do to disable your Chrome extensions.
All right, so here we are in Chrome, and you can see in the top right corner, just a little bit above the picture of Trisha, are the 3 dots, and that's going to be your customize your settings dots. So you're going to go down to the third from the bottom, which says settings. Click there, and if you look all the way to the top left corner, now we see the word extensions. It's often a little grayed out, which makes you think you can't click on it, but you can. Now here we have in alphabetical order all of Trisha's extensions. There's a box that says enabled down the really middle of your screen, but the right side of the list of extensions. Each one of those, to disable it, all you have to do is unclick the box, right? Uncheck it.
Now, if you wanted to delete the extension, you could just come right over here and delete that extension. And that will give you, it'll make it go away, obviously deleting it, but that is your safest option when it comes to any extensions that are being used specifically at LinkedIn.
Now, we wouldn't do that for one that is, LinkedIn and a whole bunch of other sites where you find it useful. But any of them that are, just LinkedIn, personally, I deleted.
Me too. Of course, there is a way that you can source without using extensions and be able to get to not just people on LinkedIn. Like I said when we started, I think it's kind of low-hanging fruit. 50% of all recruiters in North America only source on LinkedIn. If you're looking to increase the number of placements that you make, probably what you need to do is find candidates not on LinkedIn. We can teach you absolutely how to do that. I'm Trisha Tamkin.
And I'm not.
You sure? Jason Tebow. Jason and I teach e-sourcing essentials. Go check out the class on our website. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us via email. You can also pick up the phone and call me directly. Here's my phone number, and I answer my phone and I return my own phone calls, and I love talking to other recruiters in the industry. So don't hesitate if you'd like to have a conversation.
And I answer my own emails and my own text messages.
Jason doesn't want a voicemail. That's why you only have my phone number. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully this has been helpful to you and gives you some of the baselines for your own decision making, because everybody out there is saying, you decide, it's your liability. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you in future classes.
Bye-bye.